Bruce, I would love to live with you in your castle. Forever, just like in a fairy tale. I just couldn't live with myself. So don't pretend this is a happy ending.
Selena Kyle.
And that was a clip from one of my favorite sequels, Batman Returns. This is Movies the Podcast. My name's Rob.
This is Curtis.
This is Jordan.
This is Jenny.
Hi, Jenny. Welcome back to our second podcast with you.
Thank you.
Jenny's our guest. She's back again.
Oh, she came all the way back from Austin for a second trip, for a second show.
Yes. Brenda is still under the weather.
Weeks later.
We're going to get a priest for her.
She's in ICU.
Is she possessed?
I hope she can hold it out to our horror episode. That would be fantastic to have her possessed.
She just vomits all over the microphone.
Speaking in tongues.
Oh, I know a few people from my family that could do that.
I saw that porn.
Jenny has a wonderful blog that celebrates women in cinema called.
Can you say celebrates and investigates women in cinema? I like that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You look like a
watch
sleuth.
Nights or something.
I'm like, hey.
It was yesterday.
Google it, but it's iwantyesterday.blogspot.com. Inform yourself.
Couldn't get that nifty.gov, could you?
Oh,
No.
Her application was turned down. Yeah. You are not a minority.
Is this non-for-profit?
Michelle Obama took it already.
Yeah.
She wants yesterday. Fuck Natalie Wood.
God damn it.
I'm the first fucking lady. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh my God! How many of those are you gonna get out?
A lot.
Oh, okay.
My
You're just
Tourette's
getting it all
Tourette's
out
is
there.
acting up.
So let's play a little a mini catch-up, since I don't think we have much to talk about.
I have a lot to talk about always.
Curtis does.
I was talking to Rob the other day. I said I've actually seen about 5 really good movies this year. 5 movies if I was doing a top 10, I could at least do half of it. And usually that's towards the end of the year, when you see all the movies you love. I've seen Francis Ha. Disconnect? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Disconnect.
The Jason Bateman movie Disconnect was fantastic. I had a list. I recently
In the House.
The French film that we saw that was fantastic. Stoker, the Nicole Kidman, Mia Wasikowska movie,
I
was
want to
amazing.
see that.
It's Rob and I saw it together, and I'm sure we've talked about it on a podcast before. It totally messes with your expectations of what you're thinking you're getting. The trailer really knows how to.
The trailer sets a
tone's
tone.
correct.
It sets the right tone, but
Nicole Kidman's character is definitely played to a different. You're expecting something much different.
Is Nicole dark? I love Nicole dark.
You'll have to watch. It's
Did
a fantastic.
You see Paperboy?
No.
Oh my God! You watch
I forget about that movie all the time.
her performance.
When you get
in that.
home, watch that movie.
It's on Netflix, right?
Yeah, it's streaming.
Her and John Cusack, when they first meet.
Oh my God!
So
You have to see it. Even if we explained it to you, you wouldn't understand how weird it is.
I loved her in Fur.
A friend of ours just watched that Fur.
It's good.
I'll go off on a tangent here. We were talking about, I let a friend borrow Fur, and he was talking about how, we were talking about Nicole Kidman, and I said, everyone, Meryl Streep's the best, yada, 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 technically. Nicole Kidman, who would take the
I love
risks
her.
that she has taken? Birth, Fur, Moulin
Dogville.
Rouge, Dogville. I mean,
Her
the
marriage to Tom
Paperboy.
Cruise.
Her marriage to Tom, that's a risk.
I mean, good point.
Wasn't she married to somebody else?
Letting that Restylane wear off, too. That's
She
been a
did.
big risk.
She was engaged to Lenny
She's got-
Kravitz.
She's got movement back in her face.
When Roger
A little
Ebert,
bit,
when
a
Roger
little bit.
Ebert says in a review that something is wrong with your face, in a review, it's time to take it down. He did right before he died. He said he was probably like,
Curtis doesn't care because his birthday killed Roger Ebert.
He died on my birthday while I was in France.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Quote unquote in France.
In France, yeah, in downtown.
That's a.
So, but yes,
by the way, happy
Nicole.
birthday.
Nicole's the best. If I know she's going to be in it.
Portrait of a Lady. Have you seen that movie?
That is my favorite book.
That was a very audible high five.
That is my favorite book.
We have
Everything
two
about that
Curtises.
book is
You
phenomenal.
should have seen him in the car on the right here.
I'm practically wet.
When I got the Blu-ray for that movie,
Portrait of a Lady?
It's a Blu-ray. Oh my God! It's too exciting if you like the movie. I have it, and let me tell you this: not only is it the gorgeous,
Rob and I are just gonna go to.
we could talk about Portrait of a Lady all day. Not only is it gorgeous on Blu-ray, there's an hour documentary on the making of. And I'm not talking about like douchey like extras behind the scenes. It's like Jane Campion getting on set,
Intensive.
talking with them about their characters, and them fighting about their characters, and Nicole crying for like 2 hours.
And young Christian Bale's in there.
Yes, and bringing like Samantha Mathis to set. And it's phenomenal. We can talk about that later.
Yes.
But yes, Nicole to Die For.
Love her.
Anyway, so Stoker was definitely one I liked, back on track. And then Kiss of the Damned. I saw a little vampire movie, a real vampire movie.
How was that?
With Zan Cassavetes, whose dad is... I'm going to say his name wrong.
John.
Yeah.
How do you say
That's
John?
his daughter. Yeah.
John.
How do you say John? How do you say Steve?
John. Is the H silent?
John.
So she's the daughter of John Cassavetes and Jenna Rollins, and she did a vampire movie that's sort of a 60s Hammer horror film, and it's very sexual and dangerous and gory, and it has a little touch of Woody Allen and a little touch of
I was interested in seeing that.
it's on iTunes and it's on demand. I wouldn't say it's wonderful. Like, I enjoyed vampires killing people like in a violent way.
That's my jam.
Yeah, you should definitely watch it. So far it's hanging on, but it's one that I saw and I was like, this is something that's interesting, which is probably why I had to get on iTunes and I couldn't see it in the theater and it's already coming out on DVD in July. But yeah,
I haven't really watched much. Do you guys mind if we slightly segue into our topic today? Jordan, I'm looking at you.
That's fine.
well, the other movie we watched this week kind of goes into our...
Oh, we watched Halloween 2 this week. This week's topic, we're going to be discussing sequels with so many. Towards the end of the summer, there's so many major sequels, and in the month of August, there's Grown Ups 2, there's Despicable Me, there's Red 2, Smurfs 2, Kick-Ass 2.
They just released a trailer for Machete Kills.
And there's that.
Machete.
I think he kills Lady Gaga in that.
Lady Gaga
Good.
is in it.
Nobody put up a fight for that one.
We're not.
But
Wait, is that a real thing?
Yeah, she's in the
she's
film.
in it.
She's in the film.
Yeah,
Sofia
she has a
Vergara's
poster.
in
I
it.
guess Kesha was busy.
Yeah. Oh, something else has a sequel.
I don't think you can look.
Oh, Insidious.
Yeah, Insidious has a prequel, isn't it?
No, it's a sequel. It's called Insidious: The Next Chapter. So he wanted it's the same night, which much like Halloween 2, it's the same night.
But it got us on a roll of talking about some of our favorite sequels, some of the sequels that we felt were just unnecessary. And part of that conversation was we were talking about Halloween and just how impactful that film was to not just the genre, but to cinema at the time that when the sequel came out. So Curtis and I and Justin and Chris got together last night or many months ago and watched it. And I liked it. I didn't love it, but I think it held up well considering what Halloween had established.
Was it the first horror sequel?
That's what I think. It's the first horror slasher.
I never thought about that.
That's where, yet again, my ex showed it to me, and I was like, oh, this is going to be stupid. I hate Michael Myers. And then I watched it, and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. This, to me, and Halloween is sacred, hollow ground. It's not scary. Like, I don't jump. I'm like, oh, that's framed well, or that looks good, or that's creepy. But Halloween 2 jumped. The first scare, my friend Chris jumped and spilled his entire glass of water on me in the couch.
Cold ice water on him.
But it has genuine scares and tense moments.
The only part that I thought was really scary was when she was in the parking lot and she was in the car, right?
She's hiding in the car.
That's the only part that I thought was scary.
Because she keeps waiting for him to come get her.
Right.
But he doesn't.
Right. And like, other than that, I was just like,
I guess I just thought, to me, and as we talk more about sequels later, a lot of the choices when I was deciding like what sequels I liked, a lot of them were horror sequels. I feel like you can make a good sequel to a horror movie because your killer can keep going. You know, you can have some of the same characters, and that's why I liked Halloween 2, even though it's shot so far away, like 3 years after the first one.
yeah, something like that.
Slapped that wig on her and said, go.
And John Carpenter was basically forced to write that movie.
And he did reshoots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he gored it up a little bit. So
It
it's
was enjoyable. Will I ever watch it again? I don't
No.
think so.
No.
But it was fun for what it was. And to me, like sequels, sometimes they work really well. You know, we opened this episode with a clip from Batman Returns, which I felt, after the success of the first Tim Burton Batman, Warner Brothers wanting to go bigger, louder. Tim Burton, I interpret that as, I'll go bigger and louder, but I'm also going darker. And the themes in the second Batman film are just, it was embraced as a family film, but when you really stand back and look at the fact that your villain in the film is kidnapping all the firstborn sons in the city and drowning them,
Yeah.
it's a little morbid.
And we all saw it when we were kids.
Yeah, I did. I made my mom take me to that.
And Catwoman is so sexualized.
Yes.
The suit, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the dialogue, all the banter back and forth is so sexually charged
Yes.
between
But
Batman and...
isn't that a gay writer? Daniel Waters wrote it, who wrote Heathers?
I don't know.
Oh my God, I think you're right.
I think it's the same writer as Heathers, and that's where it has that sort of weird kinky, like she puts the bird in her mouth, like it has these like things that happen that you're like, oh my God, this is too much. I remember seeing that as a kid and loving it. I loved it so much.
Oh, me too.
I tore
I was
up
obsessed with
the
it. I had a
sprinklers.
coloring book of it.
Yes, because they were playing that.
Oh my
out.
God.
Yeah.
He also wrote Demolition Man.
But he
Yeah.
wrote Heathers too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you get the tone once you know who wrote it.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Wow.
No, and that was a film that I hate to admit that was a film that introduced me to Christopher Walken. I hadn't seen Deer Hunter by then. It's just
We were 10.
Well, yeah, you were little. Yeah. Christopher Walken is not little kid fare.
Rob's like,
You shouldn't see this unless you've seen The Deer Hunter.
as you're walking into Batman, they're like, stop.
Curtis, did your grandma take you to see Deer Hunter?
She,
I had a Deer Hunter
the
coloring book.
English patient.
my Nana would take me to
he got it at.
She took me to see The Long Kiss Goodnight. She took me to see The English Patient. Kiss the Girls.
Coming home.
But when you
What's Jane Fonda doing, Grandma? Something I haven't done for 40 years.
It's love.
Nature popcorn.
She probably
That's Curtis's Nana.
She's
Well,
hilarious.
My
You know,
impression
She's a
thereof.
smoker.
the casting behind that film was just fantastic. You had Christopher Walken, and supposedly Danny DeVito was told by Jack Nicholson to try to get the same deal that he had when he
Ain't nobody handing that deal to Danny
Yeah.
DeVito.
Well, the rumor is that Jack Nicholson, as a result of his deal, he gets a cut of every Batman film going forward.
I did not know that.
So no matter if he's not in it or not, he gets a cut of it.
Just from
He's
that
fucking
movie, he made, they said $62 million, and that was in 1989. Oh my God. So imagine how much.
He is fucking rolling in it.
Uh-huh.
my
He knows what to
God.
do. But you know what's my favorite bit of
Yeah,
trivia?
he still did The Crossing Guard.
I love
That is his
movie.
art film.
That's such a good movie.
art film.
Did Sean Penn direct it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was his first film, I think.
My favorite casting is who was supposed to... I love Michelle Pfeiffer, but Annette Bening was supposed to play that part, and she had to drop out because she was
What?
pregnant.
She would have been awesome.
They even... There's at one...
Fucking warm baby.
Thank you. And the Oscars, before the filming started, they said, and the person like recently cast as Catwoman and blah, 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 and Annette Bening comes out. They even have it. And then she got pregnant.
She had to call. She told me that she called Tim Burton and said, "I have some bad news. I won't be able to be in it." And it was just him trying to figure out. They've already gotten so far into production how to recast this role. And
Could you imagine with Annette Bening, though? I love Michelle Pfeiffer, but come on, Annette Bening.
That would have been pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
She would have been genius.
And so then he ended up using her in Mars Attacks. I'm so sorry, Annette.
Oh,
You shouldn't have gotten
too
knocked
bad.
out. But no, girl.
well,
Sorry, I love Annette Bening. She's the top.
She's totally a top.
Just like you.
Kids will be... The kids are all right. They said, who are we? We're casting tops. Annette Bening.
And bottoms, Julian.
They saw Boogie Nights.
And Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo.
Margaret.
I wanted to toss it out all of you guys.
I would.
A
Totally.
sequel that
That's
you,
not a plantain.
A sequel that you enjoyed and a sequel that you were disappointed by. And I'm going to start with Dan this
Oh, that's a
time.
good one.
Oh, no, Dan.
No.
No, okay. We never start with Dan.
Caught you by surprise.
There's a reason. Don't go to Dan. I'm just kidding.
So what's a sequel that you loved and one that let's start with love. Let's make the rounds on loved sequels.
Okay.
Oh, no?
Do
Well,
it,
go for
Dan. Do it.
Go for it.
I got nothing.
All right.
I thought you were going to say Terminator 2.
Lesson learned on me. So,
Jordan told you.
well, he's been calling me out all night, so
Oh,
I
that's
should
a
learn my
good one.
lesson. I should have learned my lesson by now.
See, I was loading up a sarcastic comment the entire time, and then when you're actually saying, no, one you love, and I was like, oh, I guess Next Karate Kid doesn't count.
Jordan?
that was what I was going to say. Next Karate Kid.
With Hilary Swank?
Or Amy Jo Johnson. Or
No, it's
is
Hilary
it a
Swank.
difference?
Yes.
No.
What's a sequel that
So-
you love?
One sequel. Well, I was kind of racking my brain about sequels that I really loved, and I kind of jotted down. I'm kind of a huge, among all the other kinds of movies that I love, but Godfather 2, definitely, and the first sequel to win an Oscar. which was an incredible movie. But another movie that really came to mind, because I've watched it 3 times in the last 5 days, is Silence of the Lambs, which is a sequel to Manhunter.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And is the second.
Oh, you got the loophole. Loop.
You're welcome.
Please explain,
So Silence of the
Curtis.
Lambs. Curtis thinks I'm cheating.
Technically.
I'm not cheating. It's
Well,
a sequel.
it continues the story and
It
the
continues the
characters.
story, and it's based on the same series of books and it's the
Planned.
same characters from Manhunter. It's a sequel.
Okay.
Oh, there's darts everywhere.
Literally, we spent
it's like who's afraid of...
we spent 10 minutes talking about fucking Batman Begins, but I'm going to talk about one of the best crime
Annette
thrillers
Bening.
ever
It was Batman Returns.
made. Whatever.
Talk about your movie.
Begins,
Nobody...
Returns,
Is this the one with
Street.
Julianne Moore?
Nobody gives a shit.
Is this the one with Julianne Moore?
I should have talked about Hellboy.
No.
Oh wait, that's my least favorite. I'm
That's
just
a good-
kidding.
that's a
I'm
good
just
sequel.
kidding.
That's
I'm
a good
kidding.
sequel. Yeah.
Block them out.
Well, I'm gonna stick to Silence of the Lambs because it
That's a
is
great film.
sequel and
It's
it's
a
an
fantastic
amazing
film.
movie.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot on the podcast about movies that hold up over time. It holds up. Jodie Foster. Every single time I watch, she fucking
She's so good in
brings
it.
And why does she have no
And-
big Oscar scene, and yet she won the Oscar?
because she's incredible.
Yes,
fucking
and she doesn't have to
amazing.
do anything other than just be a character, not just like...
And she is a very, and also too, I really love her character because she's a strong female lead without a romantic subplot.
Yes.
And
At
which
all.
is so lacking. And you have these strong women in film, and I'm sure Jenny has something to say on this, but you have all these strong female characters that are amazing female characters, but there's always a partner,
Not Jessica Chastain in Zero Dark
there's an
Thirty.
ex-husband, or there's some kind of, we have to make her human, we have to make her frail. But
She's missing a boyfriend.
Clarice, I mean, she does have daddy issues. for
She has a
sure.
friend.
Which, but that is not specifically a female thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
everyone's haunted by
And I
their
think
parents.
Jodie Foster really was smart in what she did in that role and in picking that role, and that's one of the reasons I really love that, for sure.
That's a fantastic pick.
And it's scary as shit.
It really
It still is.
It's
And then
still scary.
And then I read that
With everything that's going on in Cleveland, Ohio.
I did read though that Buffalo Bill and Brooke Smith, who played
Became
the
friends.
senators, they were dating while they were filming.
Oh,
that's
because Jodie
creepy.
called her, who's the woman who they kidnapped her and she was Patty Hearst. Jodie said she would call her Patty Hearst because Jodie Foster wouldn't talk to Ted Levine, who played Buffalo Bill,
Ted
but
Levine.
she said those two would talk to each other all the time.
Yeah, and they started dating while filming, which when you know that watching it again,
Creepy.
it's a little creepy.
I mean, I guess you'd have
But
to
Ted
work through
Levine's
some
actually really
issues.
attractive when he's
He
not
is,
made
yeah.
up to look like a freak.
That voice.
Or tucked in his.
Or
tucking in his-
tucking in.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love that
I
song.
asked him to do it.
Least favorite sequel though, I'll throw it out there. One of my favorite movies of all time is Elizabeth.
What a
Elizabeth, the
terrible
Golden
sequel.
Age. And when they announced it, I said, and this is kind of that, you're like, oh, it's such a good, why just do it really well? Please do it well. And the sequel was so bad.
Thank you for bringing
And
that
at
up.
about the same time, Helen Mirren did the HBO miniseries Elizabeth, playing Elizabeth at the same, almost kind of the same kind of, sunset years, and did it so differently and so much better.
That's the one with Jeremy Irons.
With Jeremy Irons, which is incredible. And she won the Emmy for it.
Can we talk about how an
Rightfully so.
underused actor Jeremy is?
I love Jeremy Irons.
He's just.
Did I just see him in? Oh, I saw him in. It's an old movie. It's called Damage. It's really
I love
good.
Damage.
Isn't it
Yeah,
crazy?
you see his penis.
You do.
It was the first penis I saw on TV.
Oh wow!
As a
and it's
kid.
not. That's not a shame to see that penis.
No, it's a good one. Jeremy has
Is
iron.
it?
Jeremy has
He-
some iron.
It's a fantastic film. It's a fantastic.
He's
book.
the original Fassbender, really.
Kind of.
Really?
It's a.
Well, you think he's like that? He's that like angular, villainy, sexy, British. Just
We could do a whole podcast on that movie. That movie's very
It's
complicated.
a very good movie. Yeah.
It's a really good movie.
But that would be my pick for going back to Elizabeth the Golden Age, which is just you take dynamic, and Kate Blanchett is amazing, and she's amazing in everything she does, and it's her performance is kind of like fighting its way through this really shitty movie, and she has some amazing moments because she's Kate Blanchett, and
Her I too can command the wind.
I will bring a
Speech.
hurricane upon you
Yeah.
that will strip Spain.
That was her
bare.
Oscar claim.
I mean, that was amazing. But the movie itself is just and it's one of those sequels that and this comes up with a lot of sequels. I think like why did you do the sequel? Like some movies are just so good and they just leave you on such a positive note. We were talking off air about Poltergeist and Poltergeist 2. Poltergeist is such a perfect
So
sci-fi
good.
movie, and it's such a great movie, and then Poltergeist 2 is like, what?
And 3 is a crap.
And I was telling
fest.
Dan that Jo Beth Williams, I saw in a interview, she said that she didn't want to do Poltergeist 2 because it just sucked, and nobody wanted to do it. They threw so much money at them to do it, and she's like, I have a mortgage and kids going to college. I'm doing Poltergeist 2, I guess. And, but Elizabeth Golden Age for sure. I wish they had kept that in the...
Actually, I'm going to segue.
Idea.
That's an
Yeah.
exciting choice.
I'm going to segue over to Curtis, because I think his worst sequel might be in line with what you just said about why even bother making a sequel.
Wait, which one? Sex and the City? Well, I'll start off with my.
I'm with you.
I'll start off with my worst because I am
Gay
I'm
America
negative.
is with you.
Yeah.
On this.
But okay, so
That's the reason we don't have marriage equality. It's because Sex
Sex
and the City too.
To me, when I was thinking of sequels I didn't like, I was thinking, what was I disappointed by? And it's sequels, if they do something different, that doesn't disappoint me. But Sex and the City 2 disappointed me. I think they went for the wrong tact. They said, you know what, the country's broke right now. We're at war. Everyone hates the president. Let's make something fun and big and like gay and like let's get
Very gaudy, all this money.
Very gay. And gays already love that show. You don't have to try and get our vote in. Like, we would have just watched it if it was Samantha, and it recycled so many lines from the series, which if you love the series, you would know when the lines were recycled. And I think that's what's disappointing about it. It's grown into me because it's a teeny, the arcs are teeny that the women go through. And in the first one, the arcs were so big and broad.
And the
Which
first
we
one,
liked.
the first Sex and the City film really felt like an extension of the series.
Yes.
It felt to me like 4 new episodes, and it took these characters to a place like you really wanted to see where they were going. If you loved these characters, you really loved what they did. I liked Sex and the City when it was airing. And the first movie I loved. I've seen it 100 times.
I still watch it now.
And the second one was just...
But you know what I think it is? If you go back and you watch Sex and the City now, it's a team of writers. A team of writers sit in a room and write the episodes separately. They go, okay, here's your episode, here's your episode, here's your episode. Here's the plot. They plan it out for the whole season. Now you kind of know where the story's going. It's written by the same guy, directed by the same guy, both movies. And I feel like someone needed to say to him, take this out, cut this down. You know what I mean?
He didn't have a voice.
He didn't have a
saying
no. Yes, saying no.
Yeah.
And he just had,
Lena Dunham needs a no.
Well, the
no,
first,
I don't think
Just
she
kidding, I'm just
does.
kidding.
We were just talking about that. Lena Dunham's do
the
whatever.
first Sex and the City was such a huge, unexpected hit for Warner Brothers that
Amazing.
they were just, they're like,
Throw some money at it.
We're gonna do this. And he's made me. We went to see it together when it premiered, and we were so excited. And we're sitting there, and we audibly rolled our eyes the entire time watching that film. But we recently rewatched it, and I liked it a lot more. But I think, like you said, it was that time where our country's in the shitter, but this movie's spending all this money to go to Dubai and doing all these things. Like,
I'm not saying they needed to be like Carrie in the like checkout line with her WIC card and food stamps, but like let's have some reality. The closest it got to reality was when Samantha goes, "I'm sick of this bullshit economy." Well, we are too, bitch. What are you doing? Oh, when they go like, they're like, "I don't know how to be a mother. How do the women without help do it?"
oh, yes.
We come and see your movie. We got a fucking babysitter. So like it's,
Well, it handled
a lot of things
women
wrong.
badly. It handled race and religion badly.
And for a
It's
show
just-
that was so... Well, my friend said this to me too, to finish my other point. It's a show that really explored women's different options. Feminist didn't just mean, I don't want to get married, or feminist didn't mean, I only want to work. It was all these different
this you
options.
get a choice.
It's your choice. Stay home, don't stay home, go to work. Do what's organic to you. And they just got away from that. And then also I thought was funny is we thought this one was very offensive, but I had a friend, not Rob, who was like, well, they talk bad about Mexicans in the first one. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. But we definitely were much more sensitive to that part of the world and making fun of that part of the world at
Are you
that
talking
time.
about Charlotte and the
Yes.
water thing?
But hey, you're
But
making fun of
that goes
Mexico.
along with her character, though.
But so is I mean, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
It's
but,
it's definitely from
You
Europe.
can make fun of Mexicans.
But we're
it's
from
fine.
Houston. See, we think that's
Please.
okay, but to make fun of someone from the Middle East, it's like, whoa, don't stop.
You know, that's funny because I saw a show with a friend from the North, and they were making some racial jokes about Mexicans, and everyone from Houston was like laughing and taking it in stride. She was like, who do I talk to? I'm so offended by this. Then
Oh,
it was
yeah.
just like,
It's because we're
You
so
know.
culturally diverse.
I know. And my friend was like, well, who do you have Mexicans where you live? And she's like,
"That's
no,
my boyfriend."
Who makes your Chinese food? I'm sorry.
Oh my
Who cuts your grass?
No, I went and got Greek food the other day, and I was
I
like, "Are they Greek?" And I was like, "No, they're Mexican."
They're Mexican.
It was amazing Greek food.
Mexicans make
So anyway, Sex and the City 2. What I was saying.
What's your favorite?
we went from such an amazing egalitarian
Sorry.
place to bullshit in about 10
Well,
minutes.
okay, so a lot of my favorite sequels are genre films. I want to say the one that everyone's going to say, but I'll say that later. But to me, a sequel is something that gets me excited about the movie. And if it's been like the 8th sequel, I can't imagine it would get me excited. But I always love, because I love Nightmare on Elm Street, and a lot of the sequels are technically good, but Wes Craven's New Nightmare to me is fantastic. It's so original, and it was nominated at Independent Spirit Awards for Best Picture, which I thought was interesting. Yes. It's an indie movie, but it had so many ideas about story.
Oh, it's New Line, yeah.
Yeah. It had ideas about storytelling and how we create these characters and how they affect us. And I know it seems like an odd choice for favorite sequel, but
Wow.
I know.
I remember just really hating that movie.
I don't know
never saw
why. I go back to it now, and it's more than a horror movie to me, and it's actually scary. So it's a weird, because Freddy doesn't really show up for a long time, whereas, in the other ones he was all jokey and showing up like all the time doing kooky stuff. He doesn't really show up until the end, and he's different, and he's scarier, and it's weird. So that's something I really love, and I think the other one I want to pick, which I see on everybody's list, is Aliens, which is probably the best sequel, other than The Godfather 2, because it takes the first one, does something totally different, makes it a totally different beast. It's like this fast-paced roller coaster. Like, if you watch that movie from like the time the aliens attack them to the end of the movie, it just goes. I don't think anyone can dislike that movie. Correct?
Correct.
And it's
Okay,
always
good.
good when a sequel is almost better than the original too. And
I don't think it's
when it
better,
kinda
though.
I don't think it's
it's
better
not
either.
better than Alien. It's different. And that's what makes it so appealing, is you don't watch that and go, God, I don't even like that Alien anymore. That Alien first one was fucked. You go, God, Alien's really good. And Aliens is really good. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
they
So
both,
you kind of judge them on different
you have to.
planes.
And that's how we tried to watch Alien 3 the other night. But that I judge Alien 3 based on totally different things, too.
Definitely, yeah.
And you have to know. So
That's how I feel about Titanic too, which is
The Great Gatsby?
a real movie.
Oh.
It's a real movie.
Titanic 2?
It's awful. It's a sci-fi original movie.
Jenny?
Yeah.
It came out after Nuclear Octopus.
Okay. For best, I put Hellraiser 2 because it was just so surprising how fucking scary it is. Like, the first one
The first one's already terrifying.
The first one's terrifying, and the makeup is beautiful. It's well done. I mean, obviously the acting is shit, but it's part of the charm of that movie, I feel. But with Hellraiser 2, they just take the horror and just knock you over the fucking head with it. Like, there's this one scene where someone is being sacrificed on this bed. It's like this mystical bed. If you've seen the first one, you know what I'm talking about. But like, someone's like bleeding on the bed, and it brings out this person. It like comes from the bed and like eats this person. I can't even describe it. It's just disgusting, horrifying, and awesome all at the same time. And just like the way this one guy turns into a Cenobite, which is like the Hellraiser people. It's terrifying. It's just so scary.
I think I want to revisit the Hellraiser.
Yeah, I know.
films.
That
I
might be
haven't seen it in
interesting.
a long time.
Like, I was watching that movie with my jaw wide open. Like, it was just so fucking scary.
Did
And
Clive Barker still have something to do with it?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was involved with all of them except the last two, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and there's one scene where the character Julia, who's in the first movie, she gets her skin, like, her body, the skin of her body completely ripped off, then put back on, and then ripped off again.
That
It's,
sucks.
Nicole Kidman goes through a lot.
yeah.
So look the way she does.
Exactly.
She called her Cenobites.
Yes.
Isn't that
Nicole
like the
Kidman
little
does have
cinnamon
Cenobites.
roll?
She might need Cenobites. Those are the Cenobites we had from Whole Foods.
Okay.
Um,
I'm so confused.
yeah, I just feel like that movie, like, did not disappoint. I feel like it was better than the first one, especially horror-wise.
Maybe budget-wise. Clive, don't get me started. Clive Barker actually writes a good story.
Yes.
And his movies translate from the 3 that I've seen.
And, like, even though they're terrifying, they're romantic. You know what I mean?
Candyman's very romantic.
Yeah, like it has poetry to it.
He has a book of plays out. You should probably want to pick up.
Oh, really?
No joke. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
they're really good.
You know what I love about Clive Barker? His writing is so great, but when you hear him, you're like, oh my god, he's awful. He's such an awful representation of the gay community.
Really?
Yes, I just don't like him.
That's what they say about me.
Oh, what? No, we do. I thought we were talking about Jordan. But anyways, yes.
And like the way they represent hell, like eventually they go into hell, and I feel like it's a really good representation of what hell should, at least to me, cinematically should look like. It's it's not fire and brimstone. It's not a red devil. It's sparse and dark, and it's there's compartments, like these different rooms of hell. I thought it was really well done. For the worst sequel, I would have to say, I was going to say Halloween 2, but Scream 4.
Oh, forgettable.
Can I just actually comment on Crystal Skull though?
Yes, please
it
do.
bad?
You totally
It's
stole that from
horrible.
me.
It's
I'm
horrible.
sorry. Like
it's
when I saw
horrible.
that movie, like as soon as I was leaving the theater, I was like, that didn't happen. That just didn't happen.
Why is it
Thank you.
bad?
It's
It's
so
terrible.
bad.
No, I mean I watched it, but I just thought, oh, that was entertaining.
Did you watch the other Indiana Jones films?
Yeah, I thought they were just as the same.
I was totally waiting for it to come back to me because I was going to
I'm
redeem
sorry.
it. They totally erased an entire series of canon just by going, we're going to tell you there's a god. There's a god. There's a god. By the way, there's no fucking god. It's an alien. It's a shitty CGI one too.
Oh wait,
All in one.
Did you see it?
Are you? What
Do you remember
thinking?
now that you've seen it?
I didn't remember that it was.
Are you thinking
aliens.
about skulls?
Oh, I knew it.
Yeah.
Kate Blanchett is a Nazi in it.
Yeah.
She's Russian.
And there's
Or
giant
Russian.
ants. Giant fucking
remember.
ants.
It's a whole.
Why?
and Shia.
Yeah, and Shia LaBeouf, and also
And he
they
never takes off
ruined-
his shirt.
They ruined the Marion character, and I feel like Marion in the first movie is amazing.
Yeah.
Like she's
She's
a
a cool
great
character.
heroine.
Yeah, when we talk about women characters.
and then like all of a sudden she's this like golly gee mother. It really I don't
Which
know.
was the beauty of her, which she wasn't. That was what was the attraction with Indiana and her, was that she wasn't like the other Cupid doll, Kate Capshaw.
she was tough.
She was tough. She was smart.
She
was
drank.
A, she
She
was a
played
fighter.
card games.
that'd be interesting movies to watch again. Because
I
I,
lo-
don't
and I
think I've
love
seen.
the-
I love the second
I
one.
love all of the Indiana Jones films. And
Me
Crystal
too,
Skull
except Crystal
just,
Skull.
ugh.
Me too.
I just thought it was for kids. I don't know, when I watched it, my little brother watched it, and I thought, well, this is for children.
I feel like Temple of Doom is for children, but it's still so good.
When they're
really
ripping
good.
the hearts out, I saw that when I was a kid. I was
oh, yeah, there's
mortified,
that.
and the kids were getting kidnapped.
And they eat the monkey.
Yeah, there's that.
There's that.
I watched that with my eyes. Like,
And then they're-
what?
I had a
she
different
co-
childhood.
Cover your eyes.
She's in the thing with the bugs, and like, and then it's like closing, like.
Okay, maybe it's not for
It's
kids.
the stuff that we watched when we were kids. It's funny how people talk about like, the stuff children see now. The stuff we saw when we were kids was violent and sexual, and
Yeah.
it was not
Yeah.
subtle. Like the '80s was not subtle.
No.
That's one thing the 80s were not, was
Yeah,
subtle.
shoulder pads, cocaine, and not subtle.
That's all in the movie American Psycho, pretty much.
Yeah,
Pretty much,
That
yeah.
was how it was.
Awful
Crystal
sequels to
Skull.
that.
I'm gonna
American
watch that
Psycho
again. I want to see those.
With Mila Kunis.
Ooh.
Oh, that's
Ooh,
right.
Yeah.
Where's my Black Swan
Dan,
sequel?
have you decided what your? I was gonna let you finish your worst one, or did you want to consider Crystal Skull your worst?
Oh, we
Yeah,
can
just
talk about
because like
Scream
I
Five.
just had such a knee-jerk reaction after I watched this. Like, I'm just gonna pretend that movie did not happen because it ruins the rest of the series. Because the rest of the series is just so perfect to me. Like, it should have ended with.
Even Last Crusade
Last
has
Crusade.
a lot of.
Really?
I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Oh, no,
No, it
I
has a lot of
love
problems.
The Last Crusade. It's just like, it should have ended with that. I feel like Last Crusade, the way it ended.
It was called The Last Crusade.
The Last Crusade!
And for a lot of purists, like, it felt like you're going back to this. And it was, I think it came out around the time we were still kind of pissed about the Star Wars prequels. And that was just so like, it was just taking these iconic things from our childhood
and
just
ruining them.
because on South Park they lampooned it by having Harrison
remember
Ford
that.
raped by George Lucas and Steven Spielberg,
Aw.
like repeatedly,
They're about to
brutally
do it again.
raped.
And that's the thing too, though. Was I give it a little slack. Like we saw, this might be kind of a good or a bad example, but the new Wizard of Oz. when we watched it, some people were like, "Grown, that's terrible." But to me, it was what the movie was when we were kids, and we didn't even see it when we were kids. I mean, the movie is 70 years old, but it used the best technology they could at the time. They were trying to do the most fun story and be scary, and that's what Oz is. And
Talk
that's
about
the
a
new
great
one.
sequel,
Return
Return
to
to Oz.
Oz.
Oh my god.
That's his
Okay, that's
only
twice
movie.
now. I'm gonna quit if one more pick that I have is the other way. I'm quitting.
Oh my god.
It's fantastic,
Yeah.
and that editor. Walter Murch edited a ton of great films. That's his only film he's directed.
He did all the Godfathers,
yes,
right? Yeah.
and that's the only film he ever directed. And it's such
I
a
did not know.
weird, creepy. Jean Marsh is the witch who takes her head.
Heads.
Yes.
Removing heads.
Yes.
I did not see that as a kid.
And that's a kid's movie.
Oh, I totally saw it as a kid.
Never Ending
didn't.
Story. That was a really dark
I
movie.
don't remember that.
That was really dark,
Right.
and it had a really dumpy sequel starring Sequest. I hate Sequest.
Oh, Jonathan Brandis. I
He's-
had such
Well,
a
lucky
crush
for
on
you,
him.
he killed himself. So.
He
Oh.
did.
Yeah, he did in Las Vegas.
What are your
I
films?
lived there. I'd kill myself
Dan?
too.
What
are your films?
Okay, so the worst, obviously. I mean, I was going to Crystal Skull there because that really it just erased the entire point of watching the first three movies. So I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say Toy Story 3. When that first came out,
Wait, your best?
is one of my best. Yeah.
Oh,
okay,
'Cause
good.
It got to the end. It got to the end, and if you don't cry, you're a fucking cocksucker. Because
I've never
really,
seen it.
I
am
cried and I'm a
cocksucker.
cocksucker.
I cried in Toy Story 3.
I never saw it.
I've never seen it.
There's that. You haven't seen it?
2 or 3.
That
I've seen
sequence that I
the
think you're
first
talking
two.
about,
Yeah.
where they're in their incinerator, they're all making their way
Yep.
through the trash, and then they have no other choice. They're just
They get
holding
sent to
hands. They're
Auschwitz.
just like,
Why would
We're
you
about
end
to
a movie
burn.
like that? I'm getting
That's not the
shivers right
ending, that's
now.
not the
They all
ending.
die?
Do-do-do-do.
That's horrible.
no,
they die?
no, they don't.
Is it a Holocaust kind of thing?
Yeah, they get sent to Treblinka.
If we
And
could all
you're-
just talk at once, I'm pretty sure this would be really nice and coherent for everybody at least listening.
Dan,
And-
you were throwing us off.
And your worst?
The worst was it had to be hands down, it had to be that the Indiana Jones movie, because that was all the movies we've grown up as kids watching, and then they just ended it going, all right, 10 years later, everything's gonna be slower, more over the top, and it's gonna be a crappy CGI monster. It's gonna take everything out.
I'm just glad that they paid tribute to Marcus Brody because I feel like he was a really great character in the series. But that's the only thing I liked about it. The only thing.
I was going to say Basic Instinct 2 because I adore the first one, as we know. I've talked about it a million times on every podcast.
We can also even go even further and go into the Superman series if you want to start hitting that
No,
up.
no,
because-
no,
No.
Let's just leave it there.
No.
That's too controversial.
Yeah.
Well, the only, I guess, mine would be Matrix Reloaded.
I
mean,
fell asleep in that movie.
I had Jurassic Park, Lost World, Matrix Reloaded, Ocean's 12, sorry.
These are your best or your worst?
Worst.
Okay. Just making sure.
Because Jurassic Park, as that first one, just, you walked out of that auditorium just like, wow.
Yeah.
How do you top a film like this? How do you, the
Castanet Benning.
the magic behind Jurassic
No,
Park.
they cast a bottom, Julianne Moore. Boom.
But then when you see Lost World, it's enjoyable, but rewatching it, you're like, no, this is just terrible.
Yeah.
I disagree with Rob, as I frequently do. I think there's one less annoying child there, although she does gymnastics. Okay, whatever. But there's a lot more social implications in this movie, in the second one.
There's a lot of great set pieces and a lot of great action sequences, but overall,
But what else was the first one?
the first one had
It was a
real.
good
Had
freaking
story.
movie. It was a
Yeah.
tight plot. It was.
It had a
it
great
genuine
tight plot.
thrills.
I mean, there's survival aspect of it, and just
It's got
action.
comedy where you need
I just
comedy.
think we
It's got-
lionize it a little too much. It's not Schindler's List. It's an action movie for kids.
In that genre, though, it's a really
Oh, it's
excellent
fantastic.
example.
But see,
Fantastic.
you're arguing that what did the first one have? Like the first one had a story that has held up. 20 years later, the film is still a fantastic
It
film.
still is, yeah.
And you look at something like Jurassic Park: Lost World 20 years later, no, it doesn't hold
I
up.
don't know. Even like the third one, I'm like, they're the same. They're all the same to me.
It's interesting, though, you did make a point about the sequel being a little bit more about social implication, which is truer to the book. And Michael Crichton, when in Jurassic Park, the actual book, it's a lot more about social
It's
implications.
like ecotone, like where
Yeah.
nature pops into
All of his movies,
cities.
all of his books have a very overtone about the dark side of science and man's responsibility when they play God, and that they touch on that a lot more.
I know it's all
A
explored.
movie
Congo.
for the
Where was the sequel to that?
and the Sphere.
Congo 2, Sphere 2.
Oh, they didn't make a sequel to that one.
I wish.
I wish, though, that people had a little bit more restraint when a movie just does amazingly well to not immediately say, we
leave it
need
alone.
3 more of these.
Well, but what do you...
Matrix Reloaded, Matrix
I know.
Revolutions.
But I'm trying to think, sometimes...
It's one thing if it's part of the director or the writer's vision.
And that's what they're trying. They tried to claim with
And
Matrix.
it's-
It
they
wasn't
say
part
that
of-
with every sequel.
With Godfather.
Hangover.
With,
Oh,
those
we
little-
meant to make 3 movies. No.
Yeah, with the Matrix though, it was like a whole different movie. Like
They were...
the sequels.
But they tried to tag it on as a trilogy. And
Right.
those don't work.
That's
together.
where, and I wasn't going to debate about this earlier, Silence of the Lambs doesn't feel like a sequel so much to me as it's a part of this universe, and these were telling this story from this universe, and then we're going to tell this story from this universe. Hannibal feels like a sequel. Silence of the Lambs feels like a...
Like a reboot almost, or
kind of.
like a return.
Well, Red Dragon would be the reboot.
With the remake of Manhunter, which actually I like.
I
a
like
lot
it
of people
too.
don't like Manhunter.
I
but
love
enjoy-
Manhunter.
And one
Ray
of the best
Fiennes
things,
is amazing in that movie.
and one of the things about Manhunter, the original with
Yes. Brian Cox.
And William Peterson. The music
And
is
Joan Allen.
and the music is amazing.
Yeah,
in
the
it.
climax scene.
Is the music
Yeah.
by Vangelis?
Yeah,
Oh my god.
it's incredible.
Oh, that's
It's so
right.
good. It's amazing. The soundtrack is so 1983.
Joan Allen plays
Like,
the Emily
like you feel like
Watson
you
part.
should be smoking, snorting
Cigarettes.
cocaine with Annette Bening. It's so 1983.
I'd love
And
to.
with that, we're
Oh.
gonna start wrapping up our episode today.
Wrap it up.
Thank you guys for listening, and thank you, Jenny, for
Thank you,
coming all the way back
Jenny.
from
Thank
Austin
you.
for another
Again.
episode. And please find her. We'll post a link to her blog on our Facebook page. And if you want to find us on the interwebs, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and supposedly Twitter. We'll see. We're up there,
Pinterest and Tumblr. No.
and on MySpace. All the same handles.
Podcast Boys of Summer.
GOCs.
Movies Podcast, and this was Movies Podcast, and my name's Rob.
This is Curtis.
This is Jordan.
This is Jenny.
This is Dan.
And thank you.
Au revoir.
Bye.
Bye.
I do
I
that.
saw that porn.
Jenny has a wonderful blog that celebrates women in cinema called.
Can you say celebrates and investigates women in cinema? I like that.
Absolutely.
Okay. I
You
want
look like a
Baywatch
sleuth.
Nights or something.
to like, hey,
It was I want yesterday.
Google it, but it's iwantyesterday.blogspot.com. Inform yourself.
Couldn't get that nifty.gov, could ya?
Oh, yeah.
Her application was turned down. You are not a minority.
Is this non for profit?
Michelle Obama took it already.
Yeah.
She wants yesterday. Fuck Natalie Wood.
God damn it.
I'm the first fucking lady. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh my God! How many of those are you gonna get out?
A lot.
Oh, okay.
My
She's
Tourette's,
just getting it
my
all
Tourette's
out
is
today.
acting up.
So let's play a mini catch-ups. I don't think we have much to talk about.
I have a lot to talk about always.
Curtis does.
I was talking to Rob the other day. I said I've actually seen about 5 really good movies this year. 5 movies if I was doing a top 10, I could at least do half of it. And usually that's towards the end of the year, when you see all the movies you love. I've seen Frances Ha. What do we Disconnect? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Disconnect.
The Jason Bateman movie Disconnect was fantastic. I had a list. I recently
In the House.
In the House, the French film that we saw that was fantastic. Stoker, the Nicole Kidman, Mia Wasikowska movie
I
was
want to
amazing.
see that.
It's Rob and I saw it together, and I'm sure we've talked about it on a podcast before. It's not. It totally messes with your expectations of what you're thinking you're getting. The trailer really knows how to.
The trailer sets a
The
tone.
tone's
It
correct.
sets the right tone, but
Nicole Kidman's character is definitely played to a different. You're expecting something much different.
Is
from
Nicole
her.
dark? I love Nicole dark.
You'll have to watch. It's
did
a
you
fantastic.
see Paperboy?
No.
Oh my God! You watch her.
Forget about that movie all the time.
Her performance.
When you get
in that.
home, watch that movie.
It's on Netflix, right?
Yeah, it's streaming.
Her and John Cusack when they first meet.
Oh my God!
So-
You have to see it. Even if we explained it to you, you wouldn't understand how weird it is.
I loved her in Fur.
A friend of ours just watched that Fur.
It's good.
I'll go off on a tangent here. We were talking about. I let a friend borrow Fur, and he was talking about how we were talking about Nicole Kidman, and I said, everyone, Meryl Streep's the best, yada yada yada. Technically, Nicole Kidman, who would take the
I love
risks
her.
that she has taken? Birth, Fur, Moulin
Dogville.
Rouge, Dogville. I mean, the
Her marriage to Tom
Paperboy.
Cruise.
Her marriage to Tom. That's a risk.
I mean, good point.
Wasn't she married to somebody else?
Letting that Restylane wear off too. That's
She
been a big
did.
risk.
She was engaged to Lenny
She's got-
Kravitz.
she's got-
It's definitely one I liked. Back on track. And then Kiss of the Damned. I saw a little vampire movie, a real vampire movie,
How was that?
with Zan Cassavetes, whose dad is, I'm going to say his name wrong.
John.
Yeah.
How do you say
That's
John?
his daughter. Yeah.
John Cassavetes.
How do you say John?
I just
How do you
said
say Steve?
John. Is the H silent?
John.
So she's this daughter of John Cassavetes and Jenna Rollins, and she did a vampire movie that's sort of a 60s Hammer horror film, and it's very sexual and dangerous and gory, and it has a little touch of Woody Allen and a little touch of
I was interested in seeing that.
it's on iTunes and it's on
Yeah.
demand. I wouldn't say it's wonderful. Like, I enjoyed vampires killing people like in a violent
Yeah,
way.
that's my jam.
Yeah, you should definitely watch it. So far it's hanging on, but it's one that I saw and I was like, this is something that's interesting, which is probably why I had to get it on iTunes and I couldn't see it in the theater and it's already coming out on DVD in July. But yeah,
I haven't really watched much. Do you guys mind if we slightly segue into our topic today? Jordan, I'm looking at you.
That's fine.
well, the other movie we watched this week kind of goes into our...
Oh, we watched Halloween 2 this week. This week's topic, we're going to be discussing sequels with so many...
Movement back in her face.
When Roger
A little
Ebert,
bit,
when
a
Roger
little bit.
Ebert says in a review that something is wrong with your face, in a review, it's time to take it down. He did right before he died. He said he was probably like,
Curtis doesn't care because his birthday killed Roger Ebert.
He died on my birthday while I was in France.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Quote unquote in France.
In France, yeah, in downtown.
That's what you...
So, but yes,
By the way, happy
Nicole.
birthday.
Nicole's the best. If I know she's going to be in it, I'll go see
Portrait of
it.
a Lady. Have you seen that movie?
That is my favorite book.
That was a very audible high five.
That is my favorite book.
We have
Everything
two
about that
Curtises.
book is
You
phenomenal.
should have seen him in the car on the right here.
I'm practically wet.
When I got the Blu-ray for that movie,
Portrait of a Lady?
It's a Blu-ray. It's too exciting if you like the movie. I have it, and let me tell you this: not only is it the gorgeous,
Rob and I are just gonna go to.
we could talk about Portrait of a Lady all day. Not only is it gorgeous on Blu-ray, there's an hour documentary on the making of. And I'm not talking about like douchey like extras behind the scenes. It's like Jane Campion getting on set,
Intensive.
talking with them about their characters, and then fighting about their characters, and Nicole crying for like 2 hours.
And young Christian Bale's in there.
Yes, and bringing like Samantha Mathis to set. And it's phenomenal. We can talk about that later.
Yes.
But yes, Nicole to die for.
Love her.
Anyway, so Stoker was.
Selena, please.
Bruce, I would love to live with you in your castle. Forever, just like in a fairy tale. I just couldn't live with myself. So don't pretend this is a happy ending.
Selena. Selena Kyle.
And that was a clip from one of my favorite sequels, Batman Returns. This is Movies the Podcast. My name's Rob.
This is Curtis.
This is Jordan.
This is Jenny.
Hi, Jenny. Welcome back to our second podcast with you.
Thank you.
Jenny's our guest. She's back again.
Oh, she came all the way back from Austin for a second trip, for a secend show.
Brenda is still under the weather.
Weeks later,
We're
We're going to get a priest for her.
She's in ICU.
is she possessed?
I hope she can hold it out to our horror episode. That would be fantastic to have her possessed.
she
during
just
that.
vomits all over the microphone.
Speaking in tongues.
Oh, I know a few people from my family that